time goes along, opinions and experts change their mind on what is right and wrong. And you said you started with a 1,000-foot setback, and now you're at 1,300-foot setback. Basically, well, okay. Several months ago, we had a guy here from up in the Thumb area that was on his own time, own money, and he said he had 3 turbines, and there was none of them closer than 1,340 or 50 foot. And John Deere's trying to work a settlement out with him because of his inconvenience with his TV and noise and everything. So why would John Deere be working out a settlement with him, and he acknowledged that he was, if 1,300 is sufficient?
There's 2 standards in place under the county ordinance. One is, again, is for participating property owners who either are under lease or are under lease and have agreed to a development site. So as long as you're under lease or have an easement signed, you could possibly have a turbine that is 1,000 feet away from your dwelling unit. That's not to say it would be 1,000 feet, but because of the other standard that's in place at 45 decibels, the likely scenario is that it's going to be even greater than 1,320 feet. But there's 2 standards out there, 1,000 and 1,300. So there's 2 of them out, one for participating, one for non-participating.
Answer the question.
I think this was a non-participant, and I'm guessing, in my opinion, he didn't act like he supported it, so I don't think he had signed his rights away. And he's mentioned it's 1,400 foot. But why is John Deere giving him any consideration for some pain and anguish if there isn't no pain and anguish at that distance?
You know, I can't speak to the negotiations that John Deere is undertaking with property owners. We're trying to move forward in time with respect to the new standards. And I think all agree that the non-participants are going to have less pain as a result of the new standards simply because of a number of factors. The turbines are going to be 100-meter tower, 95 to 100-meter towers. That means they're going to be further off the road. That means there are also going to be fewer areas that can be developed or micro-sited. A standard that I saw was that with the current standards that we have in place, combine that with a 100-meter tower, you're reducing the siteable areas to about 20% of the land within a square mile. That doesn't leave a lot of micro-siting options. So what happens is they're looking at the dwellings that are within 1,320 feet first, and they're trying to use the 45 decibel standard for everyone. For everyone, not just the participating, not just for the non-participating, but also the participating. And then if they need to come closer, they have the right to come closer up to 1,320 feet if they can't find other areas. But the participant owner already knows that as a fact. So the answer to your question is, yes, the 1,320 feet is still in place, but it's simply a matter of logistics. If you're narrowing your usable land down to 20%, if you can't make 1,320 feet and 45 decibels work, in Michigan, the likely scenario is that we're not going to have wind as a renewable energy source. If it doesn't work in Huron County, if we can't make wind energy work in Huron County with the standards that we have in place, keeping in mind that ours are a little more restrictive than what the state has prescribed in terms of setbacks and noise. If we can't make it work in Huron County, the likelihood is that it's not going to work in Lenawee County either. So I mean, there's those issues. The reason we have 1,320 feet is a matter of wind energy doability.
One of the other developers here has asked for 1,000 feet and 55 decibels as a standard. Do you reject that now?
I've never professed to recommend 55 decibels. Never.
strategic project been going on in Huron County?
We have had 2 projects developed since 2007. Harvest Wind was developed in 2007, went online in December of 2007, roughly. Michigan Wind 1 was initially approved in 2005 and was developed in 2008, went online in December of 2008.
Okay, that's quite a period of time. And maybe I misunderstood what you said a while ago, but you said May of 2010, you amended your rules and regulations for the county, I'm not sure it was county, to reflect a complaint resolution. And I wondered, is that because you had more complaints now? You said there were just a few complaints, so is it because you didn't have any complaints at all and that you didn't put anything in your ordinances to resolve that?
One of the reasons for amending the ordinance was so that a complaint resolution could be formally adopted. It wasn't that there was not a process in place, there was no formal process described in the zoning ordinance per se, other than those sections of the ordinance that dealt with nuisances per se and violations of ordinances. It didn't deal with complaints per se. I guess what I'm trying to say is the ordinance was modified at the recommendation of this ad hoc committee that perhaps there needs to be a formalized process. The process was in place, but very informal before.
Is that process, the township having to spend additional money in court to enforce those ordinances, or what's that process?
To date, the townships or the county have not spent money in court. The townships and the court, the townships and the county are not subject to the lawsuits at this point. The complaints that came in are primarily, and I want to say, the complaints that came in under county zoning was the result of the Michigan Wind 1 project. And we received approximately, and I could be misspoken, but there are approximately 12 written complaints that came in. And those complaints were generally from individuals who didn't want the wind farm in the first place.
And if there are complaints, what's the ramifications? I mean, okay, we set this ordinance for 45 decibels. And like our little plant down the road here, I don't know how many decibels is coming out of that. But the wind turbine's putting out 65. What's the penalty? Is there a fine in your area? What do you recommend here?
A zoning ordinance cannot issue a fine. Only the judge can issue the fine. Only through court action. If there's an actual violation of a zoning provision, a company is notified of the violation. In the case of Michigan Wind 1, and I really don't have enough information, I don't have the study in front of me. There was actually a study required after every project is completed under county zoning. An as-built study is required. And that study is twofold. Obviously, it proves that the location of the turbines is the same location as they submitted on their site plan. And it also is to show that the noise created by the wind turbines, is in compliance with the noise study that was done by the developer pre-construction, and is not in violation of the 50 decibel standard in the zoning ordinance. Now again, the project that we're talking about is Michigan Wind 1 under county zoning. That particular project area, that project is grandfathered into the standards that were adopted on June 1st, 2010. So we go back to the old standards.